Funcom just dropped the first look at gameplay in Dune Awakening at Gamescom. I want to play the trailer for you first, and then we'll break down what I see in the trailer. You guys let me know if I missed anything in the comments section below. What's up, everybody? My name is Whack, and thank you for joining me for this video. Let's jump into the trailer.
There is another path for you. Awaken.
You begin as a nameless prisoner. Sculpt your appearance, choose your background, and then crash into the planet. You are abandoned and alone. Hunted by sandworms. Scorched by the unforgiving sun, ravaged by sunstroke. Stick to the shade, chase the moving shadows, survive. Welcome to Arrakis, the most dangerous planet in the universe. Meet hundreds of other players in the vast online world. Befriend or betray those you meet. Form a wary alliance, in this case, a spit dart rifle and a still suit, for your help taking down territorial deserters. Working with others will always increase your chance of staying alive. The Deserter Base. Climb to a vantage point and prepare for violence. Your choice of weapons and abilities determines your strategy. Swordmasters lead the charge into battle, literally. Repel ranged attacks with a shield, and then take them out, one by one. Deploy the Hunter-Seeker and kill from the shadows. Take what you can from the Fallen. On Arrakis, nothing of value is wasted. Mine, harvest, and gather with your group to build bases and unlock more advanced equipment, like the Blood Purifier. Refine the blood you collected from your enemies to extract drinkable water. Craft improved equipment using fabricators. Replicate your bases in new locations with the blueprint system, and then sell blueprints of your architectural wonders to other players. Lead your group to become a guild. On Arrakis, a nameless prisoner can rise. Construct an Ornithopter and take to the air. The world is yours to claim.
This is Dune Man Keith Filari reminding you today you're returning with a full spy slot. My crew found a shortcut we become comfortable.
The in-game radio provides insight into key events happening across Arrakis. Map the desert. Discover landmarks, wrecked ships, and desert testing stations, filled with forgotten technology. Arrakis is a vast planet. You can explore unique locations, uncover valuable resources, and search for secrets amongst the shifting dunes. And then, return to civilization triumphant with what you've found. Harko Village throngs with people, spice traders, guild bankers, smugglers, house envoys, and of course, other players. Here, you will pledge allegiance to one of the great houses of Dune, the Harkonnen. But remember, to play politics, you need power. And on Arrakis, spice is power. In the deep desert beyond the shield wall, hundreds of players scour the landscape, hunting for spice. Every spice blow has the potential to become a heated battle, with multiple guilds vying for the precious melange. Even when it looks like defeat is inevitable, those who understand desert power can awaken Arrakis itself.
So jumping right into this, the first thing we get to take a peek at is the character creator. Now this has been shown before, and they talked a bit about the background that you give your character will have some effect on the style of gameplay that you have. Now they did say that you can learn different styles once you're playing the game, but initially you're going to want to pay attention to your background to fit the style of gameplay that you want to have in Dune Awakening. Into what appears to be the first bit of footage that we have of gameplay, which is a character running across the sand. But there's a lot to break down in this short clip, so let's jump into it. Starting on the left, you can see it says that we're unsheltered. Likely that means that we are taking the most heat damage at that point in time. So increased water loss or increased damage to your character. I'm not entirely sure what all the unsheltered buff is going to affect. But you can also see, if you look just a little bit to the right next to the character, it says we have a sunstroke. So that's definitely going to be some kind of debuff on our character. And if you look at the top, we actually have kind of a sun meter that is completely filled up. So the longer you're out in the sun, the more heat you're taking on, and obviously you're going to get dehydrated quicker. It also says that we have heat exhaustion, and it kind of explains that bar at the top. Arrakis is a desert planet. If you spend too long in the open, your water will be lost faster. Get out of the sun to recover. On the left-hand side, we can see some different meters there. I believe the large meter that is mostly empty there is our water meter. Next to that, it looks like we have an energy meter. Maybe that's our stamina. And then below that, we have health. And I'm not sure what the heartbeat line on there is. Maybe that's something like noise, how much noise we're creating in the area to attract the sandworms that would be around the desert. I think overall this is a really clean looking UI. There's not a lot of clutter. There's not a whole lot going on the screen. We're completely devoid of having a hotbar showing us where our weapons and equipment are. I don't know if that's something that can be toggled on or off in game, but bottom line, this is a really clean UI, and I actually prefer cleaner UIs, being able to kind of clear those things off the screen, and maybe they only pop up when you're actually in need of that information. Now we get a sneak peek into the menu system. At the top, you can see we have map, inventory, crafting, technology, skills, journey, and customization. You then see on the left-hand side, obviously, a backpack. That's where you're going to be carrying your equipment. Now, it looks like we have a couple of things going on here. If you look towards the bottom, it looks like we have a double dip for inventory. So not only is it slot-based, how many slots you have in your inventory, but it looks like it's also weight-based. So it's likely that we see a system where not only do you only have a certain amount of slots that you can put things in, but those things then have different weights attached to them, and you're only going to be able to carry so much weight. We also have our first look in the middle of what appears to be our hotbar, and that appears to be set up in a circular fashion, probably for the ease of controller use as well, so you know where you are slotting that item if you're on controller. And like Conan Exiles, you probably press a button to bring up a wheel where you then select the item out of that. And in my opinion, most of the gameplay from this footage appears to be done with a controller. You can see we have B to close, X and Y to do different things. So I believe that full controller support is likely already in game. Other things that we can see in this image, this unknown character is currently neutral in their standing in the social system. So they have not chosen a side. It looks like there's a rating system or a ranking system that will tell you where you're actually aligning, which group you're aligning with. And I'm not sure if those are going to give you buffs or maybe access to special things, but that's a quick, easy one-screen look to see a lot of different information. Moving towards the right-hand side of the screen, let's focus on the biggest items here. We obviously have our armor slots where they are placing the armor, but there are slots that are directly to the right of that. One of those is filled with what I don't know, some piece of equipment, and it looks like you'll be able to augment your character with this equipment. So maybe that's where the powers that you're going to see a little bit later on in the trailer come from and how they're customizable. But there are powers like shields, or being able to slowly descend to the ground, or maybe even float up. We've seen those things in a lot of the trailers, so I wouldn't be surprised if we have to slot an item in one of those locations in order to activate those special abilities. The other things that popped out to me on this screen is that at the bottom we have social, and that's likely how we're going to get into a party with our friends. We also have character stats, so it looks like that's where you're going to go to buff your character and put points into your different stats. At the top of the screen on the right hand side we have an experience gain bar, and then right below that it looks like we have some sort of currency, possibly. It's got a fancy S next to it maybe, so maybe that's the spice that we have. I'm not entirely sure, but this character currently has 0 of whatever that is. My guess is that it is some sort of currency in game. Diving into the map traversal, we have a sand bike here shown, and it looks like we're going to have durability on the sand bike. You can see on the right hand side, not only do we have fuel, but it looks like we have information that's going to be fed back to us about the sand bike there in the bottom right hand corner. We've got some information about how we ride the bike, and not a whole lot on the screen there, but we also have a speed meter and a temp meter. So I think temperature and just being in the sun in general is going to play a large role in Dune Awakening, whether you're on foot or in a vehicle. We then have the Ornithopter, and the same kind of stuff going on here. We've got some feedback about the actual vehicle. It looks like we've got some durability, or maybe some damage meter and a height meter as well. Additionally, the fuel meter and a temperature meter on top of that. So very interesting stuff that we're seeing on the screen. I think that early on, the Ornithopter is probably going to be the safest way to traverse the map, because it's going to get you off the sand and away from those sandworms. But once you get into areas where it's PvP focused, you're going to have to be very careful, because we have seen surface to air rockets and missiles being fired in previous videos. So that's one of the things that you're going to have to keep in mind while you're flying around. The one thing that struck me a little bit odd about this clip is we actually have different UIs that are displayed throughout this clip. If you watch the bottom right hand corner, that UI changes a few times, but in one of those UI changes we actually see where the wings are orange, and I think that that signifies that they have taken damage and would be in need of repair. Now we're finally into combat, and I feel like this section of the video kind of jumps between in-game footage and then into some cinematics, as you see the UI kind of disappear and then come back and disappear and come back, and this clip left me wanting more of the actual gameplay. I wanted to see more combat, but we've got a few different styles going on here. So obviously we have long-range combat, and then we have full frontal assault melee combat, which is really cool and gives you an idea of how you can play together. They talk about taking on enemies from different vantage points as a long-range character, or just full frontal assaulting with a shield and maybe a crysknife or some other knife in-game. We get a really cool look at what looks to be one of the abilities where we actually do like this charging kick or charging knee kick, which is really, really awesome. And then they kind of wrap this neat little bow around it with the hunter-seeker drone attack. So if we dive a little bit deeper into this footage, first of all, we have different abilities that are shown at the bottom of the screen in some of these clips. And if you pay close attention, those abilities actually pop up with a countdown timer showing that there is a cooldown for those abilities. It's only there for a split second right after the charged knee kick. We also get to see for a quick second that one of the bars on the bottom left-hand side is actually partially depleted from that charge knee kick. Now, this is another section where the UI has actually changed. It's not the same as the initial footage when we were walking across the desert. Those icons are now out of order and in a different setup. So I'm not sure what's going on with the UI, why there are so many changes to it. Sometimes one bar's at the top, sometimes a bar's at the bottom, and it's causing me a little bit of confusion as to what exactly those things mean, but hopefully they'll settle on one style and we won't notice those kinds of things going forward. All right, builders, it's your turn. Let's jump into what we're looking at with building. We're going to start with the crafting station. So obviously there is a lot going on in this area. You can see there is what looks like 3D printing, and then we have the distillation of blood down to water. It honestly, from that clip, doesn't look like we have just an absolute ton of different crafting stations, which honestly I'd be okay with. I don't think we need a ton of different crafting stations, especially if we're talking about 3D printing a lot of this stuff. That would mean that 1 or 2 crafting stations should suffice all of our needs. We also get our first glimpse into some of the architecture as well as some of the different decorative items. So if you pay close attention, we have some carpets, we've got some chairs, a table with a bunch of different things placed on top of it. There's some more chairs in through the doorway there, as well as like a ladder, a light, some different things that you can just kind of piecemeal together that tells you that it's not just building, there are other items and decorative items in the game. So for those of you that enjoy base building and decorating, it looks like there'll be plenty for you guys to do. There's some other things that are going on in this clip, but I'm not entirely sure what they are. It looks like maybe they are crafting benches of some sort. On the wall on the left-hand side, when the character enters the base, you can see there's a cylinder spinning, and then in the distance it looks like some kind of holographic table or something like that. So I'm not entirely sure what those other benches are, but it looks like there's going to be plenty to place inside your base. If we look at it from the outside, we obviously have wind power happening on Arrakis. I'm not sure why we wouldn't have solar power. I didn't see anything that looked like solar power, but it definitely has some wind power for all these stations to be able to function. Let's dive into structuring your base. They're obviously placing a blueprint at this point in time, and they were talking about blueprints, but you can see multiple characters walking around and actually placing these different parts. So we have the ghost image there for each one of those things, and then there's communal building within your clan and your friends. So I think that's a really cool feature where everybody can kind of play a role in building your base. I'm really excited to see how this works and if it saves a bunch of time building a base. I think the idea behind it is a really cool, unique idea, and I want to see how that plays out. And I'm not sure if it works for just bases or if actually other players are helping to assemble the Ornithopter as well. Now, I feel like the upcoming scenes are more cinematic than they are gameplay, but I wanted to show them just to talk about the different spaces that they kind of showcase here. It looks like a lot of different kind of safe player hubs, or maybe these are different faction hubs where you can go and kind of pledge your loyalty to a faction. But if you look closely across them all, I think each one of them has its own kind of feel and vibe to it, and ambiance, if you will. So I'm excited to explore these in-game and see what each one of them actually is. At the end of the trailer, they talk about the PvP combat for Dune. You are going to be chasing after these spice blooms and trying to harvest as much spice to gain power on Arrakis. So we get a quick glimpse at what some of the PvP content actually looks like. There's very little here that I feel like is actual gameplay footage. You can see some where people are shooting back and forth, but a lot of this felt really cinematic to me and not so much actual gameplay footage. So I didn't want to include it in the combat section, but definitely expect to have some PvP interactions in Dune Awakening. So I know what's on all your minds. When are we going to get it? There you go. It is coming to PC early 2025. Now, it's supposed to also launch for PS5 and Xbox Series X, but that is not announced. So we are going to get it on PC first, and then we'll see it on consoles later. That's a little bit worrisome because I feel like when that happens, the game launches, it goes into an early access phase, which they haven't said whether it's going to be early access or not, but not having a launch for all of the platforms at the same time is a little bit disconcerting. I want to know what your thoughts are in the comments section below. I'd like to thank all my YouTube members for your continued support. Y'all are absolute legends. Don't forget to whack the like button if you enjoyed the video and subscribe for more content. And if you don't want to be out of whack, there's another video on the screen right now that you can click to support more of my content.